Hello, beautiful people. Hello, beautiful people. Hello, beautiful people. My name is Vundla. I am a poet everywhere I go. Welcome to the table of champions. This is such a beautiful conversation that we're going to get into regarding slam poetry culture just around the world. And I think slam poetry has been such a huge phenomenon in South Africa. We're going to be hearing a lot about slam poetry culture in a different context from around the world, from Colombia, from Kenya, you know. So we're featuring poets who are well achieved and in their own right are slam champions. Just a bit about the history of poetry slam. It began in Chicago in the 1980s with the first slam competition designed to move poetry recitals from academia to a popular audience. American poet Mark Smith, believing the poetry scene at the time was too structured and stuffy, began experimenting by attending open microphone poetry readings and then turning them into slams by introducing the element of competition. So pretty much what a slam is, it's a poetry competition, and you're scored based on your content and based on your performance and based on how different you are and how well you stand out from all the other poets and all the other in the crowd. You get adjudicators who judge you and who score you based on how well or how poorly written your poems are. You know, you usually scored up to 10 points. And you can either be scored 1 for not doing so well or 10 for doing great. And at the end of the day, all the judges tally the scores, and we get a winner. So today I am joined by, this table of champions is joined by poets Lady La Profeta from Colombia, Xabiso Vili from South Africa, David Onyongo from Kenya, Lethu Nkwanyana from SA, and Joonas Veelmaa from Estonia. A bit about our guests. Lady La Profeta, aka Lady the Prophet, is a multidisciplinary artist with a passion for storytelling, poetry, and music. She is a world poetry champion, award-winning and nominated actor and director, music composer, and performer. Xabiso Vili is a World Poetry Slam champion, Mandela Washington Fellow, and Mail and Guardian Top 200 Young South African. Vili is a multi-award winning performer, writer, new media artist, producer, and social activist. David Onyongo from Kenya, aka Slim Shaga, is a performance poet and a storyteller based in Nairobi, whose work focuses on the history of the global conflicts of the 21st century. Lethu Nkwanyana is the National Poetry Slam champion representing South Africa in the World Poetry Slam Championships this year in Togo and ranked among the top 5 in Africa. With a qualification in professional acting for camera, his work blends poetry, God, and theater. Joonas Veelmaa from Estonia is a professional poet and part-time copywriter. He was the Estonian Poetry Slam champion in 2023. After being a top finalist in 2022, he became the first Estonian poet to win the European Poetry Slam competition in 2023. And I, of course, am Mandy Vundla, the undefeated 2-time slam champ. Y'all wait and sound. With nobody who has ever beat my record. You know, I had to say that, guys. I feel like, I was feeling the pressure there. So I'm like, even me too. Even me, I'm a champ in my own right. Welcome, guys. How are you doing?
Fantastic.
Fine.
So happy to be here, Mandy.
Xabiso, are you well, brother?
Feeling good. I'm so happy, Mandy. How about you?
I'm ecstatic. I don't think I've ever hosted a table of champions before. So the conversation itself is very close to my heart, and it's a great part of my story. So having to be on a platform like Poetry Africa to reflect on that whilst discussing slam poetry with you guys, especially internationally and from Kenya, understanding slam poetry context from where you guys are coming from, even though we're in South Africa, so we have people watching from all over the world. So I do think that it's important to firstly find out from each of you how you guys got into slam poetry. We can start with you, Xabiso.
Yeah, I think my story is the old story of like watching people perform in primary school, in high school, seeing the hip hop scene there, finding a way to express like my inner world through words, and really only kind of discovering the competitive element like more in university, right? So it was always like finding open mics and finding spaces to battle, like on the fields, like coming up like underground, and then eventually finding slam spaces in university, finding slam spaces. This was in Grahamstown, finding slam spaces in Johannesburg, finding slam spaces in Cape Town, so like in a lot of metropolitan areas as well. And so yeah, I think even the performance and competition of it all kind of started forming its own community. And so it was really interesting in how not necessarily staying to always be the best at the slam, but staying because there was a community of people that were always kind of holding me and elevating me in how to write better and how to perform better and how to hold that stage better. And I think that's really what made me kind of stay in the slam scene.
I love that. Lady La Profeta, what has made you stay in the slam scene? How did you get in?
Well, for me, writing just sort of starts as when I was an immigrant in the United States. I was undocumented and a refugee, and just watching different movies and seeing that Latin American people, immigrant people, weren't necessarily properly represented in media. And even as a 12-year-old, just kind of going, I just don't I see this movie and I don't see myself in it, even though this person's Colombian. And so just having this curiosity to share our own stories from our own perspective, from our own integrity and our own honesty. And so from there, rises this curiosity. And in university, I went to this one show with this band called Community, and it's like this big improv, jazz, hip hop, blues, like all over these like just juicy genres. And this one poet, Robert Richards, just goes up on stage, and the whole band just kind of like quiets down, and then she goes up and she has this one poem. And like, I can't remember everything that she said. I just remember how I felt, and I remember how like the whole room just kind of got like transported into the portal of her poem. And I just went, I want to do that. And actually, where I was birthed as a poet after I finished university, I went and I lived in Namibia for 3 years. And so they did not have a slam scene, but they had a very, very strong spoken word scene where you had to audition in order to be part of the show. There was a show that happened every month or every 2 months. Like around 300 to 500 people would come. So it was a big deal for you to be in this show, and you had to audition every time. So that's kind of where I was like birthed as a spoken word poet, and then going into the slam scene in Canada, because eventually I had migrated to Canada and then went to Namibia, came back. And then when I went to Colombia, Abjajala like had such a very strong scene for poetry. And it came from this place of actually just being like, hey, we've been so shut down and oppressed, and like we haven't been able to speak up. And so finding poetry as a way to artistically, kind of actually speak your piece and make a difference, and have some sort of demand, it felt like a different type of purpose as well, experiencing it in North America and in South America. And even just the stuff that we've done at schools and so forth, it feels very purposeful, and like it's with or without resources, we're making it happen because it's what's needed.
Joonas?
Yeah, in Estonia, there is not a big poetry slam or spoken word culture. In Estonia, people usually just write poems, and there are poetry books, many books, but most people don't perform their poems, but I like attention, and so about 2015 I wrote a couple of funny poems and went to a poetry evening to perform those, and because the audience were like clapping and roaring, then I really got addicted to the emotion being on the stage while the audience is like laughing. So that's why I about 5-6 years I just went to open mic events, and then I thought that I'm quite funny. I might win the poetry slam event in Estonia. On the first year I didn't win, but on the second year I did, and yeah. So I'm not a slam poetry kind of. I'm not a slam poet. I just perform at slam poetry events because the structure like fits my style. Yeah.
I love that. Let's talk about the structure, actually. What is the structure in Estonia? Xabiso is going to tell us what the structure is based like here in South Africa. What is the structure like when it comes to criteria? Like, how are you guys? How do you score? How are you judged? How do you even make it on the mic? What's the process?
In Estonia?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's quite typical structure. First round is you have 3 minutes, and 5 audience members give the points. Then half of the poets get to the second round, but in Estonia the second round has like 2-minute poem. So the audience also charges, and then the 2 points are put together, and we know who the winner is. Usually we have no jury, only the audience.
Only That's dangerous. That's dangerous. Lady La Profeta, what's it like in Colombia? What's the structure there?
So we take a look at the poems. We take a look at originality, the message. We take a look at the poetic devices that were put in place, and we take a look at the performance. And it's the judging structure is different wherever you go. So one of the things that was implemented from Comic, who was one of the organizers from Abjajala in Mexico and also continentally, is the idea of having, so yes, we do have the score of 1 to 10, but then also the idea of having, for example, like an 8 would be river, then 9 would be tree, and then 10 would be a sun or something. And then it kind of takes care of the audience, especially, for example, if you're at a school where kids or students really care about points, and then it can kind of like mess with your head, like what kind of score you got. So only the judges and the host know what actually like river and sun and everythking means. And so then, yeah, so then everyone else is coded. So it's kind of cool, because one, everyone's kind of curious, kind of going like, what is this? What's going on? And then also we have it, for example, especially at schools, we'll have it where like you don't give less than an 8. So it's like 8 to 10. So it makes it really tight. And so anything could happen within that very tight space. And then it also allows us to kind of just have the 3 codes as well. And it just makes it a lot more fun to actually go, hey, it's about the poet, not the points. It's the poem, not the points. And so it kind of just gives them also that time to just truly encourage each other, and not kind of go like, oh, did I make it? Did I not make it? Like, and kind of get down or just feel more relaxed, because that can kind of play on the mind, especially when it comes to more like students and so forth. But the structure itself and the criteria, we still train them for if they do want that. And one thing we're really encouraging is that spoken word and literature and poetry can become a career, which in Colombia is very much like very like a surprise. So it's one thing we're really pushing, that this can happen, and just building opportunities and different ways of making that happen as well.
Got you. So what happens if somebody, if you have a tie?
So
somebody,
yeah, yeah. We got 2 trees.
I love it.
What type of tree are you? Are you an olive tree or an apple tree?
Oh, tree, sunshine. Xabiso, in your backyard. What's the structure? What's the criteria?
I mean, now, Amanda, you know, in South Africa, it's rap out Lethu. We see you. Welcome.
Welcome.
And also thank you, Mohamed. Thank you for saying I look sharp. I appreciate you.
The world slam champ now. He's looking like a world slam champ.
South Africa's rough, man. South Africa's rough. So I mean, obviously, I think each different like poetry house will have its own different slam structure. I think one of the most popular forms is to obviously have a jury, and then there'll be various criteria that the jury judges on, like word and sound. You know, we had the performance, audience reaction, writing, and content. I think were the 4 main criteria that were then judged out of 10. And so, I mean, like, also, I think South African judges can be very strict. You know, I've seen poets get like 2 out of 10 for performances. But this is also, like, I think it also allows for a space for conversation and why that happened. And I know, like, that would happen a lot at what is this one at Joburg Theatre? Why am I forgetting Vusmusi's poetry house now? But I know Jefferson Chabalala would give a lot of 0s out of 10 for writing and be like, "Where's the poem?" Yes. I think that, I think that even recently, just now with the Poetry Africa Slam Jam, the top 10, that was also a jury structure as well. And yeah, I think we didn't go towards that like giving the live points like at that particular moment, and we went very, very much like you invite a jury to do the judging. I saw when back when I was doing the World Championship, and I think it also happened this year, where Joonas won, and Lady La Profeta, you were there at the European Slam Championships, where they do what do you call it? They do a Eurovision style of judging, where all the countries that are competing get, like, I think a space to give like their top 10, and then like number 1 will get 12 points, and then like number 10 will get 1 point, and then you kind of tally up all those points to get all of to get like the general score for the winner. Thank you, Chigama. Current State of Poetry. How could I forget Current State of Poetry? Yes, sorry, Jonas, you were saying.
The Eurovision system is very, very, very good.
Yeah. So I think that was an interesting way of doing it. Sorry?
I need to understand that. So you have the adjudicators are actually the participating countries.
Yeah. So all the countries can vote for all the countries that are competing, right? But you can't vote for your own country. So then you'll give the other countries scores.
I was starting to get stressed.
No, you can't score your own country. So then eventually you get like an average score from all of the countries, where you'll then kind of get an idea of like who everybody liked the most, right? So I think even, I see Quaz commenting in the comments. He was one of the judges that was scoring the other countries at the 2022 championships as well for South Africa. So yeah, I mean, that's an interesting system. And also I think the other thing about Word and Sound is that it's a league as well. So in South Africa, so you'll get your points at the end of each month, but then you tally up all the points eventually by the end of the month, you'll choose the top 5 who then go into a finale to battle it out with 0 points to see who's number 1, which is also very, very fun.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, I like that. Interesting. Poetry Africa gives only the audience the audience vote only counts towards 1 point. Just to be safe, because you can't trust the audience, guys. I don't trust the audience. The audience, they hear punchlines after punchlines after punchlines, and it's a 10, 10, 10, and there is no poem. Hello, Lethu.
Hey, how are you doing?
Fantastic. When are you competing again?
In November.
In November.
I think like in the 24th.
Tell us about what's happening in your life. We've spoken about basically just, how everybody got into slam poetry. And I know you're competing at the World Poetry Slam Champions. And so how are you feeling firstly?
Honestly, it's kind of heavy to carry the title of being a champion. And considering the fact that we have this naive notion that we are simply the best, like the whole country is watching like Lethu. So everyone is like, Lethu, go get it. So there's so much pressure, but it's all good. Like I love the pressure. It's heavy, but I'm working towards executing something that South Africa will be proud of.
Yeah. Guys, I just want to make sure. Joonas, have you also been to the World the World Slam Championship, right? The World Slam
No, I will be at Togo in November.
Are you also competing there?
Yeah.
Oh! you don't say. You're basically saying everything but that. The most important detail. Okay. So Lady La Profeta and Xabiso, y'all have been there. Please, word of advice for the brothers.
Yeah.
Something like what? We don't want to scare them. We're nice people here. I'm nice. So but like just important factors to note about competing, pros and cons in actual fact. What are the pros and cons of competing in a world slam championship? The diversity is so vast. I'm sitting here thinking about how the judges are receiving so many different voices at the same time and they're scoring them, but you guys have been there, so tell us a bit about that. And don't forget to leave a word of advice for the guys who are going this year.
I mean, Sis is letting me go first.
I mean, I'm ready. If you want to think about it, I'm ready.
I'm like, okay, then you should go because you were the first one. After I have,
All right, no, I'm good. Let's do it. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think on a stage that big with that many poets who are also like, the best in their countries, I think it's really easy to fall to the pressure, to succumb to the pressure, especially if you're putting on like an incredible amount of pressure to like, I must go there, I must win, I must represent, I must, do this, I must do that. And I think that can quite easily steal away from like the voice of the poem. And I think I was saying this to Joonas like last week or 2 weeks ago when we were in Estonia together and we're just chatting. Yeah. And it was like, I think the most important thing at this point, especially at this late stage right now, there isn't really like any new preparation of performance you can do or any new writing that you can do to the work, but it's more about like going in there, trusting the voice, trusting the message of the story. I mean, already you're competing against some of the best poets, like you are competing against the best poets in the world, right? And then there's also going to be this thing of the structure and how it's judged and who is judging. And there's like, there's so many like external factors that can influence the outcome. And if you're going to be focusing on the external factors, I think you're going to miss the opportunity to share of yourself on that stage. So if you just jump onto that stage and you share of yourself, the way that you've been doing to get to this point, I think you can leave that stage proud of yourself and your country proud of you as well. The winning or the not winning, that's all. It's all up in the air. It's out of your hands.
As I said before, that in Estonia the poetry slam scene isn't very big, so I do not have any pressure because people just don't know that I'm going.
He's funny. Mandy's just laughing.
I never saw that coming. So you're good. You're not like
I'm not good because I'm missing one text. I have to write one more. I have only 2 texts that I want to perform, and I want to write something new. But the pressure is in the theme that when I'm writing the 3rd text, you're thinking, what does the audience want to hear? But actually, I don't know what the audience is, and that pressure is in my head. That is there something that I want to say versus what does the audience want to hear? And this is I don't know where to find the balance.
Lady La Profeta, do you want to come in there to help him find the balance?
Yeah, well, one, I'm curious as to if the deadline already passed for the poems to already be sent, just because I know that they do need to be translated, but I guess you would know more about that for this year, Joonas. And yeah,
I don't know. I think we're good. I think we can. We have time to translate those now.
Okay, sounds good. Because I know for us we had to send them like 6 months before, so that's also very interesting. And like I think I kind of relate to what Xabiso was saying, sort of with like what's written is written, right? Like now you have to truly think about, now it's putting your heart, and now it's putting your experience, and even you might be a very different person 6 months later after you wrote that poem. And how does that come into the poem that you're doing? And I think one of the biggest things for me was realizing that this was my biggest battle yet. I always see, I don't know why, I see slam as such a, I'm hearing myself double. I don't know why.
We also are hearing a reverb.
Ooh, reverb. Okay, I'll try to. Oh, there we go. Fantastic. So for me, I don't know what it is about slam. It's when I get closest to spirit, when I get closest to God, when I feel like a channel, very particular, when I'm most in prayer. And I mean, that's just me. And that to me is like, I don't think of the competition or the battle as against other people. I really do see it as like, how much can I, like, what's the newer version of me? How many versions of me need to die, need to observe, need to, shed in order to become a better version of me each time? And if I manage to be who I am on stage and off stage, if I manage to live by my words on and off stage, and that's how I'm representing myself, my country, and what I stand for and what I believe in, then that to me is the biggest battle won. And then just because like your integrity is already shown, and so when you go up on stage, you don't need a facade, you don't need a mask, you don't need to do anything. Like you really are in your best version, and we do that every day. And to me, the way I structure my poems, and I don't tell people they have to do that. That's what I've done, is in terms of if I'm going there and I want my audience to hear something, and I may or may not make it to the next stage. I mean, I'm already envisioning myself walking through the battlefield, right? So I'm already envisioning myself like, nope, all the way to the end, killing. That's my vision. That's the way I manifest. But if every time anything could happen, what's the first poem I want, and what's the last impression that I want people to leave with? And if that's the only poem that I get to do, well, what is it? The same with the second, and the same with the third. And like, I will feel completely happy if I gave it my all. If I know I gave it my all, then it does not matter what rank I came, because I know that I completed that purpose. And that purpose was, that message was, and it's sometimes the message is in the things that you don't even say. It's in the things that you just channel. It's in the way that you say something. It's in the pause. Is in like how that the fibers that are touched when you say something, and in the moment that is said something. And I don't know, I think slam is such an interesting thing. And if you're truly paying attention, because everything kind of like gets chosen out of a hat, like I just feel like sometimes it's such an interesting dialogue that happens. And that's like, for me, that's something more supernatural that happens when, the certain conversation gets pulled out of a hat, and who goes after who, and what kind of message goes after what, even if people have already planned that. And so just know that when you're out there, like, you don't know even why you might be saying that in that particular place. Or even that you wrote something, and then now you're going to go there and you're going to realize why you wrote it and why that many people needed to hear it. So.
But I have a question for other poets. Some times ago, I wrote poems just to perform them, and when I needed to go to the poetry slam, I just chose the text that was long enough. But now that I'm performing at the Poetry Slam Championship, I'm starting to write directly to the championship itself. I know by the first word that it's a battle text. Do you write texts for like poetry slams, or do you write poems that you afterwards see that, oh, it could fit on the stage for paddling?
I love that battle text. Talk to us, poets. What do you do? Xabiso, Lethu.
I think for the World Slam Championship, people have their own different ways of executing. I don't think there's anything wrong with coming with like a battle kind of slam poem, that kind of thing. Because I think I've also done that where it was a poetry slam and I was just smashing everyone in the slam, It wasn't anything of personal experiences. No, I was just attacking the poets that are on stage. And it really did work because I had like the strongest first round. Sometimes it works, sometimes it might not serve. But this time, I think to be authentic, because I believe that some of the poems that I wrote are true to me. It's like experiences. And I'd really like how she was saying, like the first story that you'd want to get across. I think for me, and how you'd want to be remembered, sincerity, authenticity, I think that's what solidifies like a poem. Yeah.
Authenticity. But even I want to talk about the poem. Even if you were strategic to write a poem where you are like just dissing people,
Yeah.
right? I want to know the root of the disses. Was that truthful? Like the place in which you were bashing people. Were you saying the things that you truly feel about those people? So you were still being authentic, even if
Yes,
you were back.
'cause- okay, so what happened was, it just happened that the slam was on Sunday and I was coming back from church. I had my suit on with my tie and everyone was looking cool in their different attire, but I was coming back from church and the first line was, I'm just coming back from church. My aim is not really to defeat you, but you mistake my feet for blades when I took sharp steps. You know, those kind of slick punchline kind of poems, and it was in the year where Oscar Pistorius got arrested and that whole scandal. So I was using that Oscar thing because it was, you know, it was trending at that time. And then I was authentic when I was dissing the poems because that's how I actually felt. And I used some of their lines. And also even Xabiso, like I've actually
The
written.
bottom of it is authenticity.
Yes.
No matter what you decide to do, no matter who you decide to bash, whatever choices you make for the poetry for that particular slam, if it is not authentic, everybody
You
will
just
hear
need
it.
to, yeah, you need to be smart because I've also written a poem where I am trying to diss Xabiso Vili, trying to dethrone the king. That was the title of the poem because he kept on winning slams, and even his mother like heard the poem and they were like, this is like a love poem. Everyone loved that poem, but they didn't see it as a diss poem. They're like, this is such a beautiful piece. I'm like, I'm dissing this guy.
Your mother betrayed you, so your mother betrayed you.
Yeah,
that's the power of poetry.
Yeah. The mother was like, I think you are now my favorite poet. So at least Xabiso's mother sees me as her favorite poet.
Shots fired.
No, but I remember that poem. That poem was like an homage. You know, you went through all my oeuvre, like you looked at all my body of work, and then you like weave the poems into the poem. And I was like, it's really sweet. Like you know my work really well. Like,
oh my goodness!
I think the thing you're talking about, Lethu, about that authenticity is also so important. You know, I know Uzizi Pobam is running. Angela remembers the poem. Uzizi Pobam is running Slam City in Cape Town at the moment, and I think a month or two ago there was like this poet that kept coming like second. Right, like 3 months in a row kept coming second, and then by the fourth one they're like, I'm not gonna come second no more. It was like a poem written specifically for that stage, and like it was like a battle poem, like you know, fighting against all the poets that he's been like losing against, whatnot, and like that did really well. But I always think for me, poems that like always stand out. You know, there's this thing when you're in the audience and everybody's like snapping and going, yeah, what? And the poem's going in and the punchlines are there. But then there's the poet who gets on stage and they perform and everybody's just quiet. And then like at the end, there's like that standing ovation. And then you're like, yeah, that one just went in. They were like true with like what they were saying, so much so that everybody like felt that, and like they kind of like they like there was no space for sound because of the authenticity and the truth that poem was sharing. Oh, like lady.
Oh, everything got. Hello?
Yeah, I think Xabiso is glitching.
He's frozen. Is it true that love poems don't win slams?
Not true. I won a slam. I used a love poem. And I remember that I even saw people reacting to that. They're like, how can love poems win slams after I won like the first round? I was like, you just need to do a really good job. So any poem can win a slam.
Yeah, there's been a big debate. They say, hey man, you have to be socially conscious and you have to be an activist if you're going to slam. And that's been the longest stereotype. If you're not writing about poverty and how the world is ending, you're not winning a slam.
And I think honestly, sometimes we have to be careful about that narrative as well, and how we how we speak on it, right? Because if we are only talking about the reality we see or the negative reality that we see, like also what are we doing with our words, and how are we also, like, we are we are artists of the word. So also being able to craft those words into something positive, or into something, you know, that also brings hope and brings light. And I think that even in certain slam scenes, and I've seen it in North America especially, where it just sometimes it became a point where people actually needed a break from slam, because it was a moment where it was just too much. Like you're now actually not feeling good after the slam. You're actually kind of feeling a little bit like, oh, I don't know how I feel, you know. And that's not the idea. You can bring to light a certain issue while also taking care of the audience. And also this what you're saying, Mandy, this stereotype, right, of like, oh, then love poems or this, that. No, we should challenge ourselves to do those types of poems, right? And that's one of the things I actually found interesting in Joonas as well, is his humor. And like is in Europe, like this want and this need for more humor, which you don't see as much in at least for example in North American or Latin American poetry. And I found that to be an interesting twist, right, of looking at how to use humor as well in order to talk about certain things, or even just to bring more lightness to a situation. That's just equally as important. And you know, I mean, it's a balance for me, because I think in Latin America, like, there's so many times where people have not been able to speak up. So actually having something where it doesn't matter, like if you have the resource or not, you're just going to make the scene happen, and you're going to speak your piece, but you're going to learn to code yourself so you don't get yourself in trouble as well. That's a craft.
True. Responsibility of the writer.
I have thought about this. You said that the Estonian or the Nordics have some humor in the texts, but for example, North America are quite straightforward. And I spoke with my poet, my friend who is a poet, and he said that in North America the spoken word has grown from activism, and you have to be like very clear with your message. But like in Estonia, when we were part of Soviet Union, you couldn't say what you wanted. So the censorship was very strict. So you always said the opposite things, and you used irony, humor, and I think that in the present day, it's not. Or it's not a good tone to say the thing you want to say. You have to say it like with some other ways.
Like unintended or intended puns, you know, satire and so forth. To be careful. A question from Debbie: how important is cultural framing in the treatment of work?
Good question.
What
we can marinate on that. Do you want to respond to that, or do you want to give it a thought?
What? So sorry. What does it mean, cultural framing?
Like, I think Debbie, you can elaborate, but cultural context based on where you are located, like being relevant. That's what I'm getting a sense of relevance. I don't know if that's what Debbie's trying to ask, but she can respond in the comments with that. I have the importance or the significance of slam poetry within the business of poetry. What is the significance of slam poetry in moving the business of poetry forward?
The business, you mean like career-wise and so forth?
Yeah, career-wise. or how has it propelled your careers? Would you be where you are without slam poetry?
No.
Yeah, I think I'll try and respond to that. I think we usually use slam poetry. I don't know about other countries, but here in South Africa, it's like the testing ground where you can test off your material and see, because it's a competition. You're trying to measure yourself. If am I really dope? That's the word we use. If you're really dope, because we have like tough audiences and tough judges, so it's easy for you with if you attend slams, you get to see the levels at which poets are performing. But if I go to like a poetry show, that's also different because people are just snapping. You can perform any piece, and you'd never really know how to measure yourself because you always hear snaps. Sometimes you need to hear people saying boo, and then you can go home and write better material. So I use slam as like a testing ground. If it wasn't for slam, I don't think my work would have been enhanced so much from what it was before. But not all of us use the same method because there are poets that don't slam and the work is still amazing, because they watch other poets and they read and, they research on how you structure a poem and how it should look like, how to perform. So, yeah, I think it has elevated my performance and writing skills.
Yeah, I would have to agree as well with Lethu. Um, I think slam and the spoken word scene in general is one of the only scenes that I would say in terms of literature communities that really do focus on the sharing and the editing and the feedback and so forth. And one of the most beautiful things, and I when you asked that question, Mandy, like, would you be where you are today without slam poetry? For me, it's a hard no. I would not be. I would not be. And I say that why? Why do I say that? Because, for example, I published my book, and I had an editorial, where I published it with an editorial and so forth, and just watching the ways in which more like the community in the literature academic sort of community sometimes kind of look down upon the slam scene. I don't know if that happens in Africa as well, in different places. I know it definitely happens in Latin America. And and one of the things that we're showing them is like, I mean, sure, there's sometimes new poets and there's different people, and sometimes you can perfect your work, and maybe we didn't go we've studied it more on our own or through community and so forth. Maybe we didn't go and study the specific structure and this, that, and so forth. But guess what? We have an international community that if I had not gone up to that one small event in Cali, Colombia, to then make it to that national event, to then make it to that continental event, to then make it to that world event, I would not have the network that I do today. And how many poets that have all of their academia and so forth, which, not taking away from it, because I really do believe you should study, and you should and you should continue to perfect your craft. But how many of them have looked down upon the slam scene, and yet they don't have the type of network that we have? And it's because like we've just we just never stopped. Like it was something where it was, whether or not I'm invited to this literature or poetry festival or not, I'll create my own, or we'll do this and we'll create it, not just myself, but we'll create it together, and we'll continue to
Community.
and help it grow. And one of the things, for example, in Latin America is that it's like, if you went once, we like, not that we don't want you to go twice, but we prefer for someone else to go, so that that person can have the experience, so that they can network, and then they can come back and continue to grow it from a different vision. Now we have 2 people, then we have the next year 3 or 4 or 5 people that now have an international vision on what this could look like.
Powerful. Powerful. My goodness, we only have 9 minutes. Is this even real? Is the time even real? Because I would love to hear some poems, man. Oh my goodness. Let's hear some poems. You know what? Let's hear some poems. Do you guys have the slam winning poems with you, or do you just have poems? Do we have the funny poems here? Do we have the love poems here? Let's have some poetry. Let's have some poetry. Who would like to roll, man? There's no hat there, so I don't have numbers to pull anybody out of a hat and say it's on you. So just roll. We have 9 minutes, so
Yeah,
keep it
I
short
can
and
go.
sweet.
I can go first. I have a short love poem.
Fantastic.
Yeah, its name is Girlfriend. I broke up with my girlfriend because I wasn't really over my ex. And I'd broken up with my ex because I hadn't gotten over the one before. And before the one before, there was the one before that, and the one before that, and you can see where this is going. It's going all the way back to when I was 5, and my first girlfriend, her name was Pirette, decided to dump me. Pirette, where are you? It's time to take responsibility for your actions.
We're gonna go back into time and try to find her. Just for you.
Yeah.
Look what she done now. She went and gone and did. Xabiso?
Yeah, I mean, let's take it back in time, guys. I've been obsessed with this James Webb telescope that they shot up into the universe and can capture pictures of the past. You know, I'm just gonna do the poem, and then if you don't know the James Webb telescope, you must Google the James Webb telescope. Tonight, I am the James Webb telescope. The James Webb telescope can capture light from the beginning of time. Most of the galaxies it holds have already died. Tonight, I unfold the mirror of my arms, and memory is a trickster, the sky a gaping mouth, and all my friends are made of stardust. We are 12 years old. My best friend and I clutch onto the ground, watch the clouds sway, drunk of peach snaps and apple sours. He has not yet tried to catch a train with his chest. I have not yet tried to swallow his dying on the rocks, gasping for breath. Instead, I am 1.5 million kilometers away, floating in the stillness of space, unfolding through 344 single-point failures, existing against all odds and too far to be repaired. I origami my joints into a big bang, an epitaph to a universe that doesn't realize it's dying. I'm dreaming of her again at her 18th birthday, sneaking kisses in corners beneath a yearning sky. Hiding from pursuing cake and candles, she tells me the stars have never looked so bright. I am not yet at her memorial, packing my tears into the back of my throat, betraying my grief with a trembling voice. I have not yet disappeared into the fold of my sheets, grasping at cascading caskets and dominoing funerals settling in the earth, and at the hands of lovers adept at taking their own lives. Tonight, it is a supermoon. The stars hum of new beginnings, and we must get dressed. Unsink ourselves from the depression in our beds, wade through the vast expanse of grief. It took 26 years to build the telescope, and what foresight to believe in a technology that did not yet exist. And maybe it is faith that keeps this universe in place and our dreams in orbit. My oldest friend and I sink into the softness of her scars. She tells me her hopes for the future and how these keep her heart heart beating and her wrists intact. I have not yet seen her lifeless, and the James Webb Telescope is not a prophet. And tonight we do not die. There is laughter coming through the walls. Friends return calls. We sing to the moon, and all our graves are empty and sparkling, and all our far away friends are brought home by the night. The James Webb Telescope cannot see beyond the light. We are 12, and we are 18, and we are here, and we are now, and we have not yet seen the children we will have or the children we will become, but we ride faith into the dark, and the horizon bends to rise behind us, and the telescope is light to our children, and tonight we are all gathered at the beginning of time, and we are a hope to those that are not yet alive.
Shoo! There are the hopeful poems. There are the hopeful poems. There are the hopeful poems. Waking from depression and all the isms and the ills. That was a very... Thank you for demonstrating that, Xabiso. Would you take that to a slam?
I would take that to a slam.
Absolutely, yeah.
You need more softness and slams.
You're not gonna edit it for battle lines, for battle text.
No. I'm fine. I don't need to prove anything anymore.
When you become a world slam champ, you don't need to prove anything. All right. Woo! Let's keep it moving. We have 3 minutes, but you know what? We're gonna finish. We're gonna go slightly over time.
Yeah.
Because we finish our poems. Yeah.
Breathing is gambling. My soul is a dice tossed into existence by the hand of chance. My lungs are two fragile fingers failing to clutch onto breath. I have been basking in radiation for too long now. Skin is all the wrinkled clothing, and life is too cold to iron it back to its youth. Instead, the grave will strip me bare, expose my insides to the absence of air. When the chambers of my lashes hug, locking my eyeballs to eternity, everything I ever was coruscating behind eyelids, sealing me into a dream, introducing me into the reverie. The screws that hinge my jawbone will loosen its grip, and my mouth will slightly open, not for breathing or speaking, but surrendering to silence. After counting the beat of our hearts as if they were chips stacked against oblivion, the wheeze reclining on your frigid chest will exit as a whisper. The soil will cuddle my skeleton out of existence, shuffle my limbs like a deck of cards. To decay is a slow magic trick of disappearing. My funeral will be a magic show. Death is a trickster. Its sleight of hand will mean game over. My corpse will be a coin in the cosmic slot machine with exhausted credits. Nobody makes it out alive. The house always wins. But remember that every sigh is a bet. Every day lived is you winning. You've been risking. You've been surviving. So we cannot sit at this table forever. Whatever happens to the vague us stays and invades us.
Oh, snap. Good. Damn, that's good. Togo's gonna be interesting. Joonas and Lethu, I don't even know. All right. This poem, I'm gonna do it in English. I normally perform it in Spanish, and it's a poem that before I went to represent Colombia on the world stage, I had to write, and yeah. One night, A land defender told me about a manifestation where they created a wall against the oil snake that wanted to cross sacred rivers. Prophecy said that if this snake managed to cross, it would be the beginning of the end. The police came with their weapons and orders, the sirens chasing him. The police car catching up until it reached his side, but he kept running firm, his body like a deer, the earth dividing on two paths, where on his side, it would boost him like a moving walkway, and on the other side, the car drove in slow motion. The wind and his giant hands against the windshield. In this moment, he began running faster than the police car. I want to believe that faith does not discriminate, that the universe takes care of you when it witnesses your courage that illuminates. My grandmother tells me of when they were persecuted as campesinas, hiding in the anthills, training the mind not to move the body despite the bites. Sometimes the ants didn't do anything to them, as if they approved of the hiding place. How much internal power exists in a human being with the desire to live. La Comuna 13, Medellín, Colombia. In the 90s, it had become a cradle of drugs and death, helicopters firing, bullets penetrating the tin rooftops, the collective cry, blood dripped on the streets. The next morning, youth with burning veins but brave minds collected paint jars, house by house, started painting their streets, turning misery into art. A commune with almost all hope in coma, resurrecting, MCs prophesying, graffiti breathing, breakers breaking curses, transforming reality for the next generations. When the silence comes without calm and the noise of panic still rings in the ear, what happens after the fire? When the ship has passed through and the mind returns to the body exhausted, tell me, how does the soul rise after mourning? How are we able to feel smiles in the most fragile moments? And although I don't like the romanticization of survival, isn't it curious how women manage to save their children in the middle of a pandemic? I know women who heal wounds just by touching them, beings that diverse storms with their palms, how God makes people invisible under the wing, girls who lift tons just to save somebody in the middle of a battle. And isn't it curious that despite so much terror, there is still value in protecting life in its sacred waters, that although the law is just, there are miracles against the laws of nature that arrive just in time, that when the unexplicable conspires in your favor. More than being victims or descendants of victims, we are warriors protected by grace. We are contagious faith. We don't pull rabbits out of hats, but we sure are magic.
Woo! Woo!
Aye, the world champions. Aye.
Alive! These poems are definitely trying to keep us alive. These ones, oh my God, what? Woo! Oh, guys, I don't want this to end, but I also don't want to get fired.
They should have given us 2 hours.
I mean, how are we going to talk about poetry in an hour? What do you mean? What on earth is it? It's witchcraft. It's witchcraft. This is absolute witchcraft. The theme of this year's festival is Somehow We Survive. And just before we jumped on this, I actually just penned a response. So the theme is inspired by the poem Somehow We Survive. Somehow we survived tenderness, frustrated. Sorry, let me start again. Somehow we survived, and tenderness frustrated does not wither. Investigating searchlights rake our naked, unprotected contours. Over our heads, the monolithic decalogue of fascist prohibition glowers and teeters for a catastrophic fall. Boots club the peeling door. This is David Brutus's poem, Somehow We Survive. And in response to that, and in closing, because we have survived the slams, have we not? We have survived the rounds, have we not? We have survived the blows, have we not? Right? And so somehow we survived the slam and all of its sirens, the judges and all of their claws, the silence and the applause, the rounds and all of their blows. The page commits us to memory, the poems cement our names. Somehow our words survive the knuckles beyond the stage. My name is Mandisa Vundla. I am a poet everywhere I go. Thank you so much, Poetry Africa. Thank you so much, Poetry Africa. Thank you so much, Poetry Africa. Thank you to all of our guests. Please go onto the Poetry Africa website to check out the schedule for the upcoming shows during the week. I will see you on the 12th, but there is a kick-ass program running throughout the entire week. Please go check out the poets as well, because they will be there. Peace, love, happiness, and more poetry, man. More poetry. I'm out. Salute.